Welcome to NFL Nexus. Hey, before we jump in, do me a quick favor. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, give this video a like, and definitely drop a comment down below to let us know what you think. Okay, let's get into it. Today we're looking at a really fascinating situation with the Indianapolis Colts. They're at a crossroads where a problem on the field, well, it might just tell us everything we need to know about the philosophy that runs all the way to the top of the franchise. It's a tale of two futures, really.
So if you just look at the surface, the Indianapolis Colts have a pretty glaring problem. It's the kind of thing that keeps a defensive coordinator staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. It's a clear, obvious weakness that every offensive coordinator they face is going to circle in red ink. You see it on the depth chart, you see it on the field, a huge question mark hovering right over the middle of their defense. But here's the thing. What if that gaping hole isn't actually their biggest problem? What if it's just a symptom of something much, much bigger? That's what we're going to dig into today. This immediate on-field issue, it might just be the key to understanding a much larger debate happening inside that building about who this team is and who they want to be.
All right, so let's start right there with that big on-field problem, the linebacker room. And look, this isn't just a small crack in the foundation. The whole wall is kind of crumbling. Just think about who they lost. They traded away Zaire Franklin, a literal tackling machine. The guy led the league, and he was a huge voice in that locker room. Then they just let Jermaine Pratt, a super reliable, smart veteran, walk away in free agency. So in the blink of an eye, the Colts linebackers went from a position of strength to, well, let's be honest, dangerously thin. This is a classic NFL problem, right? Two key guys leave and suddenly you're scrambling. Now, the normal response is to panic. You hear it from everyone. They got to draft a guy high. Who can they sign? But the Colts front office, they might be looking in a totally different and, yeah, much riskier direction. And that different direction? It's not outward, it's inward. It leads us to a player who's already on the roster, a guy a lot of people might have forgotten about. His name is Jalen Carlies, and he represents a potential homegrown solution to what looks like a huge external problem. See, this is where it gets interesting. This isn't a story about a splashy free agent signing or a hotshot rookie. It's about a young guy who's been waiting, who's been battling some serious adversity, and is now staring at the single biggest opportunity of his entire career. So the big question for the Colts defense this year is, can he finally grab it? And look, don't think this is just me speculating here. This endorsement comes straight from the top. The general manager, Chris Ballard himself, pointed to Jalen Carlies. Now, anytime a GM singles out a player like that, you pay attention. But when it's this GM, a guy who has an incredible eye for linebacker talent, he found Shaq Leonard at a small school in the second round. He turned Zaire Franklin from a seventh rounder into a star. When he says it, it carries a ton of weight. He's basically telling everyone, hey, we think our guy is already in the building. But of course, he throws in that one massive, critical phrase that has defined Carlies' career so far. He's got to stay healthy. And man, this timeline, it just lays out the brutal reality of the NFL, doesn't it? It's a roller coaster. So 2024, he comes in as a fifth-round pick, this interesting project, converting from safety to linebacker. And right away, in his rookie year, you see these flashes of what he could be. 10 games, 6 starts, the potential is there. And then, crack, a season-ending fibula injury. Tough break, but hey, it's football. He'll bounce back. But then 2025 comes along. The sophomore slump hits, but not because he's not talented. It's a shoulder injury in the offseason that needs surgery. He battles back from that, only to have an ankle injury just completely wipe out his season. He only plays in 3 games. For a young player, that's just a devastating stretch. But now, here we are in 2026, and somehow, by a complete twist of fate, the room is empty, the depth chart is clear, and all that injury-riddled bad luck has turned into a golden opportunity. So you hear that injury history and you gotta ask, right? Why is the front office still so high on this guy? Well, the answer is in the glimpses they saw when he was healthy. And it kind of boils down to this number, 83.1. That was his Pro Football Focus coverage grade from his rookie year. Now, just so you know, any PFF grade over 80 is considered really, really good. For a rookie who's still learning a brand new position, an 83.1 in pass coverage it's just fantastic. In today's NFL, offenses are built to find and abuse linebackers in space. They want to get a linebacker matched up on a running back or a tight end. Having a guy who can actually thrive in those situations, that is a huge, huge advantage. So this number, it's not just a stat. It's proof of his potential to solve a massive problem in modern football. And that leads us to the comparison that gets every single Colts fan's ears to perk up. The Shaq Leonard comparison. You just don't throw that name around lightly in Indianapolis. We all remember peak Shaq Leonard. The guy was a game-wrecking force. He wasn't just a tackler. He was a turnover machine who could flip a game on its head. And what the front office sees in Carlies is that same rare mix of skills. He's got the fluid movement of a safety, he's got the speed to run with tight ends, and he has those natural coverage instincts. If, and yeah, it's the biggest if in that entire building. If he can stay on the field, he brings a dynamic skill set that could be the new heart of that Colts defense. It's a massive bet on their own thigh, and as we're about to see, that philosophy, it runs all the way to the top. So let's zoom out now. We're going to go from one player's future on the field to the entire franchise's philosophy off of it. They're facing a totally different kind of problem. We're talking about billions of dollars now, not just making tackles. But you're about to see that the way they're handling it is, well, it's remarkably similar. So the NFL, probably the most exclusive boys club in all of sports, they recently made a huge change. For decades, it was all about family ownership. But with teams now selling for over $4, $5, $6 billion, the league had a problem. It was getting almost impossible for families to afford to buy in or even to handle the taxes when a team was passed down. So they decided to crack the door open just a little bit. They approved a new rule that lets private equity firms, the big money players from Wall Street, buy small, non-controlling pieces of teams. One source put it perfectly, it's like letting the Wall Street suits crash your family barbecue. This is a massive change for the league. And for a team like the Colts, a team built on family tradition, that knock on the door sounds a little different. And here's the Irsay family's answer to that knock. Carly Irsay Gordon, who's running the team day-to-day, she was pretty blunt about it. We certainly looked at it. I mean, of course they did. You're running a multi-billion-dollar company, you have to look at all your options. But then comes the really important part. We don't have any intention of doing it now. That's a polite but very firm no thanks. See, for the Irsay family, this isn't just about business. The Colts aren't just an asset on a spreadsheet you're trying to maximize. It's their identity. It's their family legacy. And this slide just lays out the culture clash perfectly. On one side, you have the Irsay way. It's a family-run operation, through and through. The focus is on things you can't really put a price on. Identity, tradition, the culture of what it means to be a cult. And in that model, control is everything, and you keep it in the family. Then on the other side, you've got the private equity model. It is a corporate investment. It is cold, it is calculated. The focus isn't on tradition, it's on profit reports and financial returns for investors. Control gets watered down, shared with people who honestly might not care about the team's history as long as the bottom line looks good. And the Irsays are fighting to protect their side of that line. Okay, so it's easy to admire that commitment to family and tradition. It's respectable. But in the NFL, if you're standing still, you're actually falling behind. So if the Irsays are saying no to all this outside cash right now, what's the one giant expensive problem on the horizon that could force their hand? What's the one thing every single owner has to deal with sooner or later? The answer, believe it or not, comes down to this number, 20. That's about how old Lucas Oil Stadium is. Now I know, it feels like it just opened yesterday, right? The house that Peyton built, a jewel of the league. But in the world of NFL stadiums and fan experience, where things change so fast, 20 years is an eternity. And this really is the perfect way to think about it. In real life, being 20 is just getting started. But in NFL stadium years, that's basically a senior citizen. The whole idea of what a fan expects at a game has completely changed. What was state-of-the-art back then is just the bare minimum now. The new standard is being set by these multi-billion-dollar palaces in places like Vegas and LA. And keeping up with that, well, it is an incredibly expensive arms race. Yeah, think about it. Fans today expect perfect Wi-Fi so they can run their fantasy teams from their seats. They want luxury suites and clubs with fancy food. They want to be blown away by video boards the size of an aircraft carrier. Now, Lucas Oil Stadium has amazing bones, as Carly Irsay Gordon put it. It's a great building, but to keep up in the 2030s, it's going to need a major facelift. And we're not talking about a new coat of paint here. We're talking about renovations that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. That's the kind of bill that can make even a billionaire family start looking for help. And this is where it all comes full circle. This is where private equity goes from being that unwanted suit at the family barbecue to being a really valuable tool. The analogy here is perfect. It's like having a super talented backup quarterback with a rocket for an arm on your team. Your whole plan is built around your starter. You trust your guy, you're committed to him, and you hope you never, ever have to put the backup in. But you sleep a whole lot better at night knowing that if things go wrong, he's on the sideline ready to go. For the Irsays, family ownership is the starter. But private equity, that's their financial backup QB, just waiting for the day that massive stadium renovation bill finally arrives. So here it is. This is where these two stories that seemed totally separate, the forgotten linebacker and the family-run franchise, they actually merge into one single coherent philosophy. When you really look at it, you realize the Indianapolis Colts are running the exact same play, just on two completely different fields. It's a shared belief system that drives how they handle everything.
It's a tale of two bets. On the field, they have a huge hole at linebacker. What's their first instinct? Not to panic and spend a high pick, but to look inward. They're trusting an internal solution in Jalen Carley's. They're betting on their own guy. Now, look off the field. They're facing this new financial world. And their first instinct? Not to cash in, but to look inward. They're protecting their family structure from Wall Street. They're betting on their own culture. See? Both paths are all about a bet on yourself philosophy. But, and this is so important, they're not being stubborn about it. They're keeping their options open. The NFL draft is still there as a safety net if Carley's doesn't work out, and that private equity money is still there as a safety net for that future stadium bill. It's a really consistent strategy. Trust what you have in-house, but have a backup plan just in case.
And so it all leaves us with this one last question to chew on. We're in an NFL that's more corporate and more global than ever, driven by these mind-boggling billion-dollar deals. And in that world, maybe a team's most valuable asset isn't the shiny new stadium or a huge pile of outside cash. Maybe, just maybe, the greatest asset a team can have is just knowing exactly who they are. And that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching NFL Nexus. If you dug this explainer, please hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and tell me what you think about the Colts situation down in the comments. Also, if you want to help support what we do here, check out our coloring books. They're great for kids, grandkids, even for adults. The link is right there in the description, or you can just scan the QR code that's on your screen. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.